I don't care if it's a week, 2, 4, 6, 7, 8. Who do we appreciate? LeBron James. That's who y'all got to start appreciating. And you got to stop disrespecting this man. You got A.J. Brown, who's a legit number one, and you got Julio, who's a legit number one. One of them dudes got to get double teamed. Who gonna get double teamed? And whoever gets double teamed, the other one gets the ball. I'm saying this with no pun intended, with full of pride. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another edition of the Prideful Takes podcast. As always, it is your boy Pride. I got a fun one for y'all today. And of course, there's no way you can have fun without some controversy. Elena Trapp, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being on the show. How are you doing today?
Thank you. I'm doing great. Thank you for having me, Pride. I'm happy to be on.
I appreciate you being here, and bear with me when it comes to the controversy. I promise, ladies and gentlemen, we're gonna cross that bridge.
Oh yes, we're gonna give it to you. We're gonna give it to you.
She is. Don't say we. She is. I'm innocent here. You feel me? I'm chilling. I'm a witness. I'm a bystander. But first and foremost, obviously, we're hitting the stride of the NFL season.
For sure.
And listen, this year, dudes have been stepping up. And they've been stepping up in ways I can't even imagine.
It's a lot more competitive this season.
Way more competitive.
Yeah,
and
you
it's
can't
crazy.
Tell which way it's going to go.
Yeah, there's guys going up, and there's guys going down. There's guys who like the Bills who are taking off, and the Chiefs who are struggling.
Yep.
But people have been saying that the MVP award has been QB orientated for a while.
Yeah.
Which is true. Mm-hmm. So it kind of got me thinking, are there any guys playing who are not quarterbacks who have a legitimate chance of winning this award?
I think so. I think my picks, if I had to pick any, would because I mean right now I do have a quarterback as my MVP, but if I was to pick outside of that position, I would probably go with either Jamar Chase or Trayvon Diggs for the Cowboys. Trayvon Diggs has been playing incredible on defense. Like he's been their anchor pretty much, and it's kind of shocking to see just because he is a relatively younger guy. But he's stepped up to the plate and really like brought it home as far as for that defense, because the Cowboys, there was never really any questions with them as far as on offense. It's always, can Dak lead them to the promised land, or can Dak culminate that offense and get them to rally behind them? That was really the only question for the offense. Dallas's problems for the last few years has always been the defense. So now they finally have an anchor, a guy who they can follow after, who takes that lead and takes that charge, and it's pretty much like, this is how we're going to run things. And like, he's just been incredible as far as anticipation, reading offenses, and just like I said, being that spark for them. And then on the opposite side, you got Jamar Chase. Like, I mean, who saw the Bengals clicking like this early? Like, who saw that coming? You'd be a liar if you said you saw that coming and saw them beating some of the teams that they beat. And I mean, the way that they put it on Baltimore last week. No, who could have predicted that? And Jamar Chase he doesn't look like a rookie. He looks like he's been in the league for a good 5 or 6 years. He's comfortable. He doesn't look afraid of the moment. He's stepped up big time. Him and Joe Burrow, they picked up. I mean, it looks like they're just back at LSU. Yeah. As far as with this offense, they're just back at LSU doing what they did in that championship season. So I've been really impressed with him as a rookie, and just the way that Joe Burrow's come back from that major injury. And you want to talk about poise in the pocket. I mean, he looks like a Peyton Manning, like, you know what I'm saying, but a little bit more mobility as far as, being able to run with the football. But yeah, so those will be my two picks outside of the quarterback position, Trayvon Diggs and Jamar Chase for sure.
Yeah, I didn't have Trayvon Diggs, but I'll be honest, I didn't really think about him until I was talking with Mike earlier. He was the one who was like, put him in there. And my thing is, he does get burned a lot.
He does, yeah.
But even though he's young, the fact that he's got the balls to be as aggressive as he is to get those picks, I can't really hold it against him. Because, look, yeah, the biggest knock people have on him is that he gambles a lot, and it's true.
Yeah. But I'm not just on the air.
Because the thing is, at the end of the day, he's cashing in on him. So we can't really be like, oh my God, he's being too, because again, I get him being too risk taking.
Yeah. And without risk, there's no reward. Yeah.
Exactly. So,
yeah.
I do like him. Me personally, I got to give it to Derrick Henry. That's the guy I would have to give it to. He's leading the league in rushing. And picture this. Take a walk with me.
Okay.
If we took his average yards out, right? And we only, the only yards we gave him was yards after contact. This man is still leading the league in the NFL. He's still leading the league.
Yeah, that's insane. That's insane.
He's getting hit. This is a grown man who's playing with middle schoolers. That's what I see when I see him play. He's
a Mack truck.
It's crazy. He's a Mack truck who somehow is out here beating Bugattis in a foot race. Let that sink in, bro.
That's a great analogy.
Bro, it's crazy because he be gunning it and he be running and whatnot. And speaking of gunning it, this man about to be up a storm.
Mike, stand up.
Look, man, Chicago's 4-0. Nobody can tell Mike nothing right now.
Nah, can't talk to me, dog. Can't talk to me.
We need to say, Mike, can we please speak?
Ain't nobody at my table right now.
100%. So 100%. We need permission. But I'm going Derrick Henry. You said Jamar Chase, which I honestly, that's my second guy. Look, as a dude who has him on his fantasy team, I love that guy, and I'm calling dibs on him again next year. He is carrying me in ways that look. Out my team, right? I had 3 guys I had to pick up from the waiver wire because of injuries and because of bye weeks. Jamar Chase single-handedly carried me to the point where I'm calling him Pops. I don't know the dude. I barely can spell his name right. I be forgetting the apostrophe, and I still be calling him Pops because this dude is just like you said. And when they drafted him, I didn't think it was a bad pick. I was just more confused because it's I would bulk up that line, but I can't remember who said it. Yeah. I can't remember who said it, but one of them was the line. Yeah, I get the line, but what's nice about it is when you have that chemistry with the receiver, you could survive having that line. You could survive with that because okay, I can throw the ball here, I can run slants, and our timing is perfect. There are times where he throws a slant to Jamar Chase, and in my mind, I'm like, that's a cute little 2-yard gain. And all of a sudden, because of it's a massive gain. So, I would have to pick him. Mike, if you have to pick any type of non-QB MVP, who you got?
Well, I mean, we already covered, obviously the big front runner is Derrick Henry. And then, Jamar Chase is a great one. I was one of those guys that Jamar, to me, is more of a luxury than a necessity. And I felt like Penei Sewell is still linemen just go so disrespected in this league, especially offensive linemen. Guys like Quentin Nelson, guys like Penei Sewell are generational talents. And I felt like coming off an ACL tear of a rookie franchise quarterback, Penei Sewell was the guy that the Bengals should have got, no doubt. But definitely right now, if Joe Burrow remains healthy, this tandem, is going to be one of the most fun to watch for years to come, at least in my opinion. And, you never know down the line if Justin Jefferson doesn't want to stay with Kirk Cousins. He might say, I want to go play with my boys Joe and
that would be
Jamar. And that's always something you need to remember. This isn't just the NBA where old teammates can go team up. The NFL has teammates that were willing to team up too. We see it with Trevor and ETN as well. But for me, Cooper Kupp is one of those guys that is not only the funnest name to say in the world, definitely one of the best guys to watch. Watching Cooper Kupp do his thing, watching the way he's just completely exploded and changed the game for the better. I felt like personally when you watch a guy like Cooper Kupp and Jared Goff try to get better, you could see throughout this highlight reel as well that Kupp is taking those steps to be a great wide receiver. And I felt like Jared, it was more of Cooper grabbing his hand and saying, okay, I'm going to come take us here. But with Matthew Stafford's hand in hand, and they're running together. They're ready to go. I always say it, white boys from Detroit, the second they get to L.A., they make it big. You got Eminem, you got Stafford. Don't know that. But guys like Goff, they get sent to Detroit, and they get sent there. And it's because Goff just wasn't that guy bringing it in. But what you see from Kupp, I think, you have so many times so far this year. I believe he's had 5 or more 100-plus yard games. I think he's matched 150 yards over 2 times or 3 times now. He's without a doubt stepping it up. The least he's had so far this year was 64 yards, which as a Bears fan is a lot. So I definitely do look at him and I say, if you're not giving it to Henry or Chase or someone or a quarterback, I would definitely give it to him.
Yeah, and the thing is like, mind you, this is a guy who's saying that when I thought Matthew Stafford got there, I didn't know whether or not it was going to work. I didn't. If I didn't know better, these two went to school with each other. They had sleepovers.
Yeah.
And if I didn't know better, Cooper Kupp had a stint in Detroit after Megatron left. Because the way that these guys are just like somehow on the same page, it's a weird level of chemistry where you were born to play with each other. Like you guys were born to spend a few years with each other because I'm telling you, there's just no way Matthew Stafford and Cooper Kupp have this great tandem. And the only way is if they were meant to play with each other. And honestly, like, look, I'm telling you right now, one of the most exciting tandems I love to watch is Matthew Stafford and Cooper Kupp. Because the thing is it's kind of like the same thing I said earlier about Burrow and Jamar Chase. They'll do a quick slant and you'll think it's 3 yards. And all of a sudden, it's more than that. It's like 20, 25, 30 yards. And it really just comes down to where Matthew Stafford puts the ball. And where he puts the ball, he goes, I could put it in his gut and he can just get a couple yards. But if I put it just about half a foot away, just those couple inches, he can catch it, not only catch it in stride and not get hit, which is important, and he could turn up the field. It's just crazy. And again, to Matthew Stafford's credit, no matter who he throws to, he makes sure they don't get hit, which is, as a quarterback, is something
underrated.
Very underrated. And you've seen him do it with Cooper Kupp countless times, where my thing is, Cooper Kupp's career is over. He's going to get lit up. And all of a sudden, not only did he not get lit up, he was able to get extra yards. And I like Cooper Kupp. And honestly, I'm a Jared Goff guy, but I'm honestly starting to think there's a legitimate chance, Elena, that Jared Goff was actually holding back Cooper Kupp, and had they had somebody else, maybe he could be looked at as an elite receiver already.
Right.
Absolutely, and I agree with that.
Your point, though, Pride, watching, I was at Megatron's last game. Little did I know it was his last game, but I was physically there. Right. It was in Chicago. It was Matt Forte's last game as a Bear. It was Megatron's last game ever. It was crazy, to hear a couple weeks later that was all she wrote. So to be there, it was dope. But I think your point with Stafford not letting his guys get injured is because that's all he really did. And it wasn't really his fault. But with Megatron, the only way to bring Megatron down was to lay his ass out. And that was really it. So guys came at him with everything they had. Because if you were just trying to wrap him up, he was going to stiff arm.
It was over. Yeah, it was over with.
He was going to destroy you. So
he would drag you 30 yards. So.
Right. And that was just who Megatron was. So I think without a doubt, Stafford understands that. And he's trying to get guys in these opportunities where you're not getting those open, close-winded kind of hits from a linebacker down the middle. You're trying. That's the number one, fault of a quarterback. You see it a lot in high school. And if you're not teaching these guys in high school on your defense,
the right way,
If you see someone catching the ball down the middle, obliterate them. And that's why you don't see it a lot. You never see Tom Brady do that. You never see Tom Brady hit somebody up the middle unless it's like a Leonard Fournette, and even then he's going towards the side. But it's definitely a situation I think Matthew's learned. And it's to no fault of Matthew, but it's just something to, you looked at and said, wow, this really shortened Calvin's career. Let's make sure we don't do that again. Let's make sure we give him every opportunity to get away rather than just get him laid out or get him double covered and stuff like that. But I think that's exactly what Jared's problem was. You saw Cooper kind of getting a little bit banged up because, Jared's getting afraid and he throws the ball away even though he's in double, triple coverage. He's willing to do that because he's not taking the hits. So I do think Jared's a decent quarterback. I just think he was young and he wasn't ready for that moment. And I think why they look so good together is because Matthew was ready to win in Detroit and Kupp was ready to win in LA, but the guys around them weren't. Now that they're together, they're on that same page. And I think that's where the chemistry lies.
Yeah, I think you have to also consider as far as and probably you made a good point about Kupp and Matthew Stafford, but I think you have to also consider that Matthew Stafford is now on a team with a bunch of dogs like he is. And I've mentioned this before, it's no longer just him and Megatron. It's like he can spread the ball out. Obviously him and Cooper Kupp, their connection is incredible. And I mean that's the trust, whether that's the money in the bank, but he could spread the football all over the field. Like it doesn't just have to be Cooper Kupp. And also, I just don't think that Jared Goff was mentally as sharp as a Matthew Stafford, which is why I think it makes such a difference. And we're seeing such the surges from Cooper Kupp is because now you have a mentally sharp quarterback who also can sling the ball down the field. So it's like that you merge those two things together and it's a match made in heaven. And as we can see, that's why they've been having so much success, is because, like you said, like you alluded to, Mike, Matthew Stafford kind of learned from his mistakes in Detroit with Megatron and kind of how that situation went. He brought that knowledge over to the Rams, and the younger guys kind of took them under his wing a little bit, but also just mixing that with the knowledge that he already has just as an elite quarterback. Because Matthew Stafford is an elite quarterback. We just didn't get to see that because he was in Detroit. You know what I'm saying? Now he's on a bigger stage and on a better team. So now it's like,
saw him when they were playing on Thanksgiving, and that was it.
That was it. So people really didn't get to see a good sample size of what he could really do. And now we're being able to see that on top of the fact that he has elite people to throw the ball to now. Right. So it's like, it makes that world of difference.
Yeah, and again, this is coming from a guy who I thought Matthew Stafford was good, not great. I don't know what I was thinking. That makes me lose some credibility on some level whatsoever, because everyone's telling me that he was great, and I'm like,
yeah.
And I think the reason that a lot of people like me was when we saw Detroit, we blamed him. And I think that's where we messed up, where we had to understand that, does he deserve some blame, of course, because he's the franchise quarterback, but we also need to consider who he's working for. Like, that front office really didn't do him any favors. They really weren't helping him. And I don't want to say they were hurting him, but they weren't helping him either. They kind of was just neutral. They kind of was just like, all right.
It is what it is.
Pride. In all honesty, Pride. Can you name to me right now the best offensive lineman that was taken in Detroit in the last 20 years?
I was gonna
last
allude to
20
that.
years is Penei Sewell, and they got him after Matthew Stafford was gone. That's the problem with me. You've done more for Jared in the last 6 months than you have ever for Matthew Stafford.
It's true.
The fact that Matthew Stafford is still upright after all the terrible offensive lines that he's had, man, listen, because
and to your point, we talk nowadays. We've been talking about how Russ gets hit and how Carson got hit, and it's like we've been having that conversation, but it's almost as if we kind of forgot that, like, the guy who used to spend more times on his back than in the pocket was Matthew Stafford. So it is
running for his life more times than that.
He's not even that mobile. That's the crazy part. He's not that mobile, but the guy was out here running a 440 because he knew his life depending on it. He knew, I'm gonna take a hit and I'm dying, So like, I'm just the only thing I really hope one day was when you think of NFL MVP, we stop solely thinking about quarterbacks. I hope one day we can get to that, because I get it. Quarterback is the most important position. I understand that. But at the same time, there are other guys who, like Mike, you said it earlier, lineman is, like, being an offensive lineman is probably the most disrespected job in all of sports.
And it's the most important.
Hey, that's the crazy part, because without a line, you're gonna have a tough time. And what's crazy about it is Quentin Nelson is one of the best, if not the best, lineman in all of football. And people don't really talk about him like that, because you know what I mean? Like, because when you're an offensive lineman, it's not as sexy as a running back, or it's not as important, quote unquote, as a quarterback. But my goal in life, I want to see a lineman win that award once. I want to be able to say I saw it, because we need to understand something. If you take a lineman away from a team, it's going to affect them bad. And look, as much as I love Tom Brady, that is my goal. I love Thomas Edward Patrick Brady Jr. When he got suspended for 4 games, we had a solid line, and we were looking good with Jimmy Garoppolo and Jacoby Brissett. So it goes to show you that, I understand, the quarterback is the important position. But at the same time, I feel like I'm not to say that we need to ignore the quarterbacks. At the bare minimum, why don't we just raise some other positions up? Because, look, Jamar Chase is having one of, if not the greatest rookie years in the history of the game. And people are like, oh, yeah, cool, it's cool. But then his name is not really coming up, Or Mike, because you said Trayvon Diggs. Look, 6 games, 7 picks. Look, man, and I was telling Elena this earlier. I don't care if sometimes he gambles and he gets burnt.
Yeah.
If you can still get me a pick, if you can get me a pick a game, I'm gonna put you out there because at least I know. Listen, you gonna get burnt, but guess what? I know there's just as much of a chance there is of you getting burnt. I have an equal chance you gonna get me a pick.
Right. And a big thing with Diggs, in my opinion, to why he gets burnt is because, and I hate to say it because it's not an excuse, but as a guy who played safety, I've been a part of 2 championship teams. My job solely, and I pride myself.
Flex, yeah.
No, come on, Mike, come out there, bro.
My big thing was though in all of those games, I wasn't an Eddie Jackson type guy. I wasn't one of those guys going for the picks. I got them sometimes, it wasn't likely, but I got, but my big thing was laying dudes out. And when dudes got burnt, you lay them to the ground. And that's what you have to do, and that's who you have to be. So Diggs is out there taking these chances to help, turn the ball over. And the safeties behind him, your number one job as a safety, not to get off topic, but is to make sure nobody's behind you. And the safeties on Dallas, what I'm seeing, all of these wide receivers are behind you. And your one job is to stay in front of everybody just in case they get the ball from your corner. And I feel like Diggs is where he gets burnt wouldn't occur if the safeties were truly doing their job. Now, every single case, I won't say it's the safety's fault because sometimes Diggs does make those kind of adjustments, but he's a rookie. Well, he's not, but he is. He's not, but it's his first year. You know what I mean? Like your first
he's like a red shirt.
Your first year.
Yeah, he's a red shirt. That's a perfect way to put it. He's a red shirt right now.
Right. And that's how I look at it. I look at it as your first year in the NFL, you're very careful. This is his first season of being himself and betting on himself. So I definitely think his defense needs to understand that, whereas Micah Parsons plays very passive and needs to, find his role in the league. But to your point, like guys like Diggs, what they're doing, despite them getting burned sometimes, you have to look at it from an overall perspective. Oh, well, why does Justin Fields suck? Oh, because he has no O-line, but nobody says that. But you don't do that on defense. You solely blame the defensive player. And just because I am one, I'm not trying to say that, we get a bad rep because we do stupid shit. And that's completely I've done it. I've laid guys out when I shouldn't have and got the penalty. Like that's perfectly fine. But for Diggs's case, we got to start seeing guys defensive player of the year become more of MVP candidates, because if you look at their numbers, like what they're doing and the effective turnover rate is so much bigger than Tom Brady, respectfully, throwing a 4-yard pass to Antonio Brown. Like it's totally different.
It's true. And at the same time, it's like, we Google Gaga over the receivers, like the D-Hops of the world and, the Devontae Adams. And it's like, if there's a corner who can neutralize them, we need to pay, first, Jalen Ramsey. I will say this. I'm not his biggest fan of the world. But the fact that he has not won an MVP blows my mind to this day.
It's crazy. It's crazy.
Wild, because if I go and ask you who do you think can shut down Devontae Adams and D-Hop back to back, they play the Cardinals week 6, then week 7 they play the Packers. What quarterback you think has the best chance of stopping them? Forget best chance. For Jalen Ramsey, his expectation is to stop them. Like if they score a touchdown, we're looking at him like, what are you doing, bro? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
he takes away a whole side of the field. That's the crazy thing. He takes away a whole side of the field.
Yeah, and the thing is Trayvon Diggs has the potential to do that. Yeah. Because look, I call him the Mac Jones of defenses. He's got a lot of stuff you can't teach. There's certain intangibles that he has and possesses already that you can't teach. And it's just some of the outs, like the rough work, the stuff you can teach anybody, really. Like, open your eyes. And obviously IQ, but that just comes with experience. You put the guy out there for long enough, and eventually he's going to start understanding, okay, I'm not going to risk it this time. Yeah. I'm going to risk it the next. He'll start learning and stuff like that. So, Trayvon Diggs right now, if he can continue this level of play, he could be the next Jalen Ramsey. Where if you ask, who's the number one corner, that consensus is Jalen Ramsey. Right. You know what I mean? Like that consensus is Jalen Ramsey. I don't think I've ever met a single person who says Jalen Ramsey is not the number one quarterback. I think this kid has the potential to get there. And it's kind of tough for him because he's setting a bar that's real high. You know what I mean? Like. If he now people are expecting him to get at least a pick.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you're a cornerback and people are expecting you to get a pick a game, you're going somewhere.
Right. That's the problem though, Pride. That's where I feel like he is still young and there is still a lot of I just dropped something. But that is something where, he needs to continue to develop his game. And I'm not saying that he's bad at coverage, but what I'm saying is when you get to that point of Jalen Ramsey, you're not going to get the interceptions because guys aren't typically throwing to you. So what I need you to do is just to be glue and to stick to your guy and have amazing coverage. Now, that's a lot to ask. I'm asking you to be an interception machine, but they're not throwing to you. I'm asking you to stay in coverage, but you want to take chances. But that's what Jalen Ramsey does. So that's really the bar. And me being a former DB, I acknowledge that it's definitely easier said than done, but you have to be able to do that. And I definitely think that's a big part of his game. And I'm hoping because he's young, obviously this kid's going to be able to catch the ball. Look at who your brother is. Your brother's Stephon Diggs. You're going to be able to be a great wide receiver type guy. And I think that's why he catches these interceptions is because your brother is Stephon Diggs. And how many times did you practice covering Stephon growing up? So I definitely think
that's
you
a good
have
point.
that tangible in you. But I need to see you cover better. And that's something I think you didn't have growing up with Stephon. You don't learn anything from him from that aspect. You probably just learn, the patterns of his breakoffs and where he comes off as a wide receiver. But you really do need to look at it from that perspective of don't get so caught up in the interceptions because at some point that ball will stop getting thrown to you. And if you're just getting burned because you're taking chances, it's going to look worse.
But at the same time, the way I look at it is I think this year they're gonna get he would probably get more interceptions.
Yeah.
My thing is because when I watch the game, right, I watch and goes, okay, if a quarterback has 0 interceptions, okay, what did he do though? Is it because he was so much glued that the quarterbacks was just ducking him? Because we've seen. You know what I mean? Darrell Revis, he's had a few low interceptions. But it's not because he was a bum or it was a bad year. It was just because teams were just like, hey, yo, that's Darrell Revis. All right, adorable. So
we're going to throw all the way over here.
Yeah, they're like, you know what I mean? They were like, yo, listen, bro, that's what we're doing. So if I see it like that, I don't really mind,
Right. Yeah.
I kind of look at it more, if you get burned one play,
that's fine.
I look at it as, okay, you took a chance, you gambled, it didn't work out for you. And it is what it is. You know what I mean?
Right.
But if the thing is that what I want from him, I want him to keep that gambling mentality he has. I just want him to, be a conservative gambler. Be more along the lines of, I'm not going to gamble every play. There's going to be plays I gamble and plays I don't, He also needs to have awareness. And what I mean by that is, like you said, Mike, the safety's job is to make sure, and this is something people don't talk about a lot. Your sole job is not to get sacks. If you get interceptions, that's cool or whatever. Your main job is to make sure that if the cornerback fails, or if he gets hurt, or if he just, mistimed something, you're the safety net, and your job is to make sure that if the cornerback, for some reason can't make the play, you make it.
You can make
That's your job.
You know what I want to see from him, and I think this is kind of the separation, and like you were saying, probably putting it together, having the intangibles and then being able to put it together. I want to see how he responds when he's game planned for, because there's a difference. There's a difference between people looking at you and saying oh yeah, he got potential, and like you said, the just out on him right now is okay. He gets burned a lot. He takes a lot of risks. He takes a lot of gambles, but nobody's really okay, we're not going to throw in this position, or we're not going to call this play, or we're not going to, because, because he's on this side. Nobody's doing that yet. So I want to see, when the game slows down and we get into the latter months of the season, or when Dallas goes to the playoffs and he's actually somebody has a week's time to zero in on you and what you do best. I want to see how he responds to that. And I think that'll be the story that tells the tale as far as what kind of potential he really has, because that's when you really see what guys are made of when you're game playing for it. It's a lot different when they don't see you coming.
Right. And that's
you get to make all the mistakes. You get to kind of, dig around a little bit, and because nobody's really checking. They are, but they aren't. But once they're zeroing in on you, I want to see how you respond to that. But go ahead, Mike.
Right. That was my point though. That's why I call you year one right now. Because you're real year one. No one's game planning for you. You're just trying to find yourself in the league. You're trying to make an open man roster.
For sure.
53-man roster, I should say. But, going into year two, you get this breakout season and you start to say, okay, I have an identity. I know who I am. And guys aren't game planning for me, so I'm going to be able to have an amazing season. You step into that real year two when teams are game planning for what you're really great at.
Exactly.
And a full sample size to say, this is what Diggs is doing. This is what Diggs is good at. These are the chances he's probably going to try to make. And then you're going to game plan on that. And you might see him get burnt. You see that with the Washington football team. An amazing last season. At their first year with Chase Young, everything was great. They were very passive, very aggressive. They were great in coverage. But once you neutralize that and you understand, okay, well, if we stay away from Chase Young, we can really win this game. And I know it's not as simple as that, but it truly is. So you look at Diggs right here, and I definitely see it from a corner's perspective to why he took that chance and why he undercut. But it's definitely something you need to look at it and say, that was a very risky move, because right there, that clip, that second one, it's one of those things where when you start running full speed this way, if that wide receiver is to catch it or you're to understep, he's going right back that way with all that. You're still going forward.
Right. And
Year 3 is going to be a very good year for to prove Diggs and how good he really is.
Yeah, because you can't take those kind of risks with like a quarterback like a Tom Brady or like a Matthew Stafford or Joe Burrow once he kind of, because Joe Burrow's still young too. So once he kind of figures to put his intangibles together, or Lamar Jackson or Patrick Mahomes, like you can't take those kind of risks because they're smart enough to know he's going to undercut this. Right. So all I have to do is throw it behind him. If I throw it behind him, my receiver's out of there. I just got to get there. Right. So that's what I mean. Like, what's people,
those risks.
Yeah, exactly.
And the thing is I anticipate when he does get game plan for it, he's going to struggle in the beginning.
Right.
Yeah.
And I feel like the struggle for him isn't because he's doing the wrong thing. No. I think it's going to be him understanding. I got to cut back on those risks. Because honestly, if once he becomes a number one and they game plan for him and he cuts back on that, look, the way this kid be opening up his hips. That's something that, like, this dude, like, he opens up his hips. He doesn't really get broken down easily, like, unless you're an elite route runner. And even then, he'll try to keep up with you. When it comes to penalties, he doesn't really call, like, as much, which is kind of has been a problem for Dallas the last few years, where those crucial plays, they end up getting a play called on him. So he's got that IQ. He's got all this stuff. And honestly, like I said, let him play how he's playing now. Like, I'm pretty sure that's a consensus between us. Keep letting him play like that. And then when he's the number one, try to work on making sure he doesn't, overly, do over risks. And if he does, it is what it is. If he only gets burned once, maybe twice a game, look, I'm good with that as long as it's not those crucial plays. That's all, you know what I mean?
For
like,
sure.
If it's just some random play in the first quarter and he gambled, missed, and they end up getting a touchdown, it is what it is. I'm not going to kill
you. Can recover that, you can
recover from that, So it's just, and like I said, he's not dumb. So I feel like him being able to transition to being less risk, I think that would just come natural to him. Because the guy's not dumb, you know what I mean? Like, he's a pretty smart dude. So in terms of that, I think there's absolutely going to be no issues with him. Speaking of issues, Houston's down bad right now. They 6-2, bro. They got mild. And it's sad because, listen, bro, I'm a Boston boy. I'm mad that we lost. I almost punched my TV this close. I put money on it. I thought we were going to win. I really did.
Oh.
Yeah, I thought we were going to win. But
it's different when you put money on it.
It hit way different. It hit way different. Boy. Oh, so there with the – whoa. Look, man, I'm going to tell you right now, when I found out Ronald Acuna was going to be out – by the way, Morton's out now. And he got injured. He started apologizing. And I'm like, bro, you're a tough hombre. I'm going to tell you that right now. But I'm going to sound crazy. I had no faith in this Braves team. I'm going to keep it a buck. I thought when it was Milwaukee versus Atlanta, my thing was, bro, they're just playing to see who's going to get swept by the Dodgers. That's kind of how my whole thing was, right? And even though people want to say they won because of the injuries, I don't think so. I think the Braves came out. Look, before the injuries truly hit, they were down 3-1. And unless you're the greatest basketball player in God's green earth, you're not coming down 3-1. I'm just throwing that out. So I'm just throwing that out there. But now that Atlanta, they're on a roll. They got game one. Mike, is this basically it? Is this really it? Or do you think Houston has a chance?
This is Atlanta's series to win. This is their series to win. Like you said, actually, Pride, is that I thought the Dodgers were going to win too. Personally, I thought that they were going to go to the World Series, and it was just going to be who's going to lose to the Dodgers. But this Braves team, they started rolling and started clicking at the perfect time. And one thing as a sports fan, when you watch a team, as much as it's about the players and how they play and all of those things, it's a matter of timing and who can click at the right time.
Right.
And this Braves team started clicking at the perfect time, right when the their backs were against the wall and the chips were down. They rallied together and they've been through the adversity. They've overcome it. They beat the best team in baseball, in my personal opinion. So it's their series to win. Like it's their series to win. Like if they lose, it's going to be more shocking than anything, because I don't see Houston beating the Braves, honestly and truly, if they keep playing the way that they're playing right now. But that's just my personal opinion. Go ahead, Mike.
I mean, it's hard. It's hard because of the way I've seen Houston play all season long, and especially during the playoffs. You kind of start off slow against the White Sox. You start off slow against the Red Sox. And I even talked about it on my podcast today, where I was talking about how I view it more of a LeBron James type mentality for them right now, where it's game one, they're not going to look great. They're not going to click.
Yeah.
They're trying to get a feeling of what this series is going to be.
Like,
they're trying to get that underneath them, and they're trying to figure out, the atmosphere and everything that's going on. This year they don't have the buzzers. They don't have the trash cans. They don't have all this stuff going on with them. But my biggest thing is, and I've said it, they cheated. Point blank period, they cheated. That 2017 season is tainted. But I truly didn't feel like they needed that. I truly felt like the team is World Series caliber. I felt like at the time they could have gone the distance, especially the tragedies that were going on in Houston in 2017 with the hurricanes and everything that was going on. America had Houston's back during that season. No one gave a shit about the Dodgers. No one wanted the Dodgers.
Yeah, no, not at all.
Dodgers fan.
Not at all.
That was just how it was. Everyone was happy for Houston at the time, and we forget that. But I don't think they needed to cheat. And I think you're starting to see that now. The problem is this team can get there, and we all know they can get there. But when they cheated was especially in crunch time, and I think that's what we're seeing now is when they finish, especially without McCullers. And McCullers was huge for the White Sox series, very huge. And the fact that he's out, it's going to be huge. And Morton's out, and Ronald Acuna Jr. is without a doubt one of my favorite baseball players. I've seen him play at Wrigley Field against the Cubs. He's one of those guys that you will heavily miss, and I'm very upset that he's not there, because him and Ozzy would be going crazy right now. But you look at the Houston side of things, George Springer's obviously still gone. Like Verlander, I don't remember the situation, but he wasn't asked to join the team. Something happened with Verlander. I have no idea. But it's a weird situation. They're missing guys. I love Dusty. I got mad love for Dusty Baker. I always will. Chi-Town forever. But he's one of those guys. And in all respect to everybody, it's just great to see an old black man get success and get the privilege that he has, because we all know baseball throughout the years has been very white dominated throughout the media. And you're starting to see guys like Ronald Acuna Jr., Shohei Ohtani, and many others, start to break that barrier. So to see Dusty do this at 76, 77 years old, it's amazing. But I definitely think this is, a very telling series now, and I think it's just the fact that it's up in the air, and I think that's because of the fact of what happened with Charlie yesterday. And if the Braves can win today, I think it's safe to say that okay, you have a good lead. But if Houston takes it, okay, who's replacing Charlie now? And I don't know how that's going to go. You really have to figure out that rotation fast, because if it's a 1-on-1 series, you have to account for Charlie. You have to account for the guy who's replacing him. Can you trust that bullpen? I really don't know. We got a lot of former Cubs on this team. You got Jock Peterson. You got Jorge Soler.
So sad.
Wilson Contreras' little brother's on there. I'm rooting for him. I got ATL all the way, but I can definitely see Houston doing this.
Yeah, I got Houston. And the reason I have Houston, a couple of reasons. First and foremost, if they win, we could say that, we gave them a good fight. And that's kind of my cop-out as a Red Sox fan. That's kind of a feather in my cap.
You lost to the champs. Like
exactly.
That's a fair assessment.
Right. But I will say this. This is the year that Houston desperately needs to prove. Because I'm one of the few people who believe, and Mike, I think you're with me on this, in 2017, they should have won. I think you're with us on this.
Yeah, for sure.
2017, I think if they had not cheated, they would have won. I genuinely believe that.
I think
this is their chance to prove it. This is their chance to say, look, we did what we did in 2017, but guess what? Don't matter. Lick me from the back. We would have won anyway. That's kind of, you know what I mean? Here's the problem. Their best pitcher right now is Zach Greinke, an old Zach Greinke who's not that guy anymore. He can still produce, don't get it wrong, but he's really not that guy anymore. So they need to come in and they need to be offense orientated.
Right.
They need to be putting up 5 to 6 runs a game to even have a chance. You know what I mean? Eddie Rosario, for some unknown reason, we need to drug test this man.
He definitely will be drug tested.
Oh my, 100%. But listen, if Miles Jack's diesel self is getting drug tested for sleeveless, I need Eddie Rosario drug tested because this dude just woke up, realized it was postseason, and just turned up for no reason. This dude, he's the hottest batter, and honestly, if you asked me a couple years ago who the hottest batter was, I would have said Kike Hernandez. But right behind him, and when I say right behind him, I literally mean Kike could smell his breath, would be Eddie Rosario. This dude just woke up and just was like, yeah, you know what? I want to be lit now. And he's been the ball off the cover ever since. Right. And
he's going to get it back. He's going to get it back.
Oh, 100%.
Absolutely. Oh, 100%.
Yeah. For me, here's what it really is going to come down to. If Houston can come out and put game 1 behind them.
Right.
The reason they almost lost to the Boston Red Sox, I think it was game 3. We hung up 12 on them. And like in their mind, they you could just look at them. They were rambled. They kind of was just frustrated and angry and all that stuff. I kind of towards the end of the game, more so from Carlos Correa, I saw that. And my thing is, bro, you lost 6-2. It didn't get to double digits. You shouldn't be that angry and that dejected because first and foremost, not only is it game 1, like you said, Mike, they haven't really played each other like that. So this was basically, if like Morty was one of, if not Atlanta's best pitcher. Like Charlie was their guy. So you kind of have a vibe for him. You're feeling it out. If you lose game 1, it is what it is. Let's see, some adjustment. The fact that I saw them walking off the field, if I didn't know better, they just got swept. And I'm like, I understand you guys are upset you lost game 1. I would be upset as well, don't get it twisted. But to act as if all of a sudden you guys have no chance, that's alarming for me. Right. That really is because, again, this is an emotional team. This is a team that when they're ecstatic and they're rowdy, it shows on the field. Right. Like there have been multiple times where like Zach Greinke will get a strikeout, and you just see him, his old self with a walker just casually, limping his way over to the dugout, and you just see like Jose Altuve screaming up a storm, look like he's about to burst a vein in his neck, and Carlos Correa is like trying to get him. Like that's what you guys need. Even Alex Bregman, like you guys are an emotional team, and you need to ride that momentum. You guys can't just be going down 0-1, 6-2. And again, I understand if you want to be upset, you lost. Not only did the Braves lose their best pitcher, in my opinion. Not only did they just lose that, but with their best pitcher, bro, in that game you scored twice. You had opportunities to score more. So it's not like you guys were just being held at will and couldn't do anything. You guys had opportunities. And at the end of the day, if you really watch the game, it all came down to one thing. And crucial in parts of except for the home run by Soler. Outside of that, it all really came down to a couple plays here and there that ended up moving the men on base.
Right. And
I know that sounds corny to say, but what I mean by that is when you have a guy on base as a pitcher, as a guy, because I've pitched. I was never a starter because I hated starting because I felt like that was too much pressure. I always felt like being a reliever was the easiest thing to do, right? Because the tone was already set. You just show up and you pitch, right? As a reliever, I was always told, don't look at the bases. Don't look at them. Because unless you're a lefty and you got a vicious pickoff game, do not look at the bases. You do not concern yourself with the bases because you should only be focusing on the plate and occasionally drop into a knee in case someone's stealing or the catcher wants to try something. That's really it. And I'm seeing these guys looking, and I'm like, there was a couple pitches where they're looking and the bases are empty, and I'm like, what are you doing? I'm like, they're already in your head. So I'm concerned for Houston. I'm not giving up. I think they're fine. I think, like you said, Mike, I think it comes down to this game too. If they come out with that same energy of that whole, then it's going to be an ugly.
It's over, yeah. Because this Atlanta Braves team can get hot with the best of the team. Like when they get hot, they are scorching. They're on fire. So if Houston comes out lackadaisical and they, like you said, they don't come out with energy and they kind of hum around, Atlanta's gonna run them off the field because they're a type of a team. When they smell blood in the water, they capitalize. Especially we saw it with the Dodgers series. Like once they figured it out and they started clicking, it was pretty much over after that.
Yeah, and before I let you go, Mike, because you said that the Braves are like a very hot team. So is Houston.
Right.
Yeah.
And you know what I mean? Like, so if I'm Atlanta, I don't get too ecstatic over this win. Because obviously I'm not going to be ecstatic.
You got to play it safe. Yeah, you got to play it safe.
But you also got to be smart. Understand, these dudes could all of a sudden, pop up out of nowhere. But again, if you're Houston, you need to understand, they can get hot, but we can go nuclear. We also have that potential. So it's not just, you know what I mean? Like all of a sudden, like, because we've seen it. Granted, it was in the Red Sox series, even though it was the end of the game, they came out and they hit 2 back-to-back homers.
Right.
So that just shows you, bro, like you guys have this potential to be able to snap out of that funk. Now, if you guys allow yourselves to, that's really what it's going to come down to. And I have Houston in 6. I'm still holding on to that. But to your point, Mike, this game too, I'm not going to say it's must win, but it's
critical.
It's going to be big. And I feel like Pride, to your point, is why they looked that way. I felt like personally it was because of Valdez's performance. You saw how he performed in Game 5 against Boston. You saw how he performed against the White Sox, and that was big. So I think they counted on that. I think they counted on taking Game 1, knowing McCullers isn't there, again, knowing Verlander isn't there, and knowing Greinke isn't who he used to be. That this rotation is definitely tampered with. You don't have Garrett Cole anymore. You don't have one of the best pitchers in baseball. So you definitely do need to account on that. And I think they definitely did look at it as, if we could take Game 1 with Valdez, we're in a great spot, because Morton truly is, in my opinion, one of those guys that is one of the best to go against. So if you can beat them with Morton, I think you can take anybody in this Braves rotation. But I do think that, that was where that came from. I think they were just frustrated with it. And I also look at it from Morton being a previous member of the Houston Astros. You see this guy go down, you see him get injured, he breaks his femur and still throws 10 pitches. He's a dog. But
that's a savage stuff right there.
He's a dog, and they said he'll be all right by spring training, but he's out the rest of the series. But I think there was a lot to go in that, a lot of emotion. But definitely Valdez not having a good performance, I think, was a big part of that.
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting. They play tonight. I got Houston winning. I think it's going to be it's going to be an opposite. I think it's going to be where we're going to look at Houston's going to do their thing. They're going to dominate. And we're going to be like, okay, it's fine. It was that one game. But again, like I said, this is very critical. If Atlanta comes out, it's going to be, I'm going to be concerned, because now it's going to seem like if they come out 2 times in a row with this low energy, it's now going to come across as if Atlanta's in their head. And, once I hope that doesn't happen. Time will tell, but I'm just mad because if we were there, we would have swept any team. We would have swept any team. Speaking of
spoken like a true Red Sox fan.
Oh, 100%. Come on. I'm Red Sox fan. It's got to be some delusion. Kawhi Leonard. I had this for both of y'all, right? So I'm not gonna say no names.
Let's get into it.
Yeah, I'm not gonna say no names. You feel me? I was on an unnamed show, a little bit ago, and again, I don't want to say names. ASAP. I was on ASAP Real Talk, and again, people who won't be named. Hold on, let me, because I'm dry snitching. I'm dry snitching today. My trap. I'm dry snitching out here, bro. I'm dry snitching. Kawhi Leonard's name just stumbled. I can't remember what we're talking about, but his name just stumbled out there. And Alana, you had the nerve.
Well, I wasn't even there. I
know. But Mike, you came in and had her back. So you need to worry. Alana, you came out and you said Kawhi Leonard is not a superstar.
Indeed.
I was, and you're doubling down. I'm scared. Mike came in and you backed her up, and I want to start with Elena, and then after she's done, Mike, you'll have the floor. You guys will have as long as you want to plead your case.
Okay.
And Elena, we're gonna start with you.
Okay.
Plead your case on why Kawhi Leonard, the cyborg, the cornrow wearing man that played for the Clippers,
indeed,
is not a superstar.
Okay, so here's the thing. I want to preface this by saying that when I say what I say, I'm not saying that I think Kawhi is a terrible player, or I think he's trash, or that he's not good, or that he's not even a star. To say, I just think for me, when I think superstar, when I say the word superstar, there are certain qualifications and certain things that I need to see from a player in order for me to put him in that category. Now, for me, like I said, as far as it pertains to Kawhi. And I believe Shannon Sharp alluded to this, and it kind of made me wonder, is that it's different when you go from being the hunter to the hunted. And superstars are able to kind of differentiate between the two, and they can perform under any circumstances, whether they're the hunter or the hunted, they perform, they rise to the occasion. That's a part of being a superstar to me. Now, as it pertains to Kawhi, when he was the hunter, we saw honestly, we saw the best version of Kawhi in my honest opinion when he like I was speaking on with Trayvon Diggs, when you're under the radar and you're not game playing for it and you're not casted into that spotlight and people have expectations of you, it's a lot easier for you to be a superstar caliber player, or to be kind of casted in that circle. But once you become a center target of that, and people are starting to game plan for you, and you're expected to rise to the occasion, and you're expected to seize that moment, it becomes a lot different. And I just don't think that Kawhi has performed well enough in those moments to be considered a superstar, myself personally. And this is taking out the whole load managing and him not being available for 30, 40 games every season. Like, I'm not even considering that. Now, of course, that's probably a small portion of it, but that's not my sole reason. I'm just saying, if you take the superstars who we've seen lead their teams and seen be the main guy and be the alpha male, if you put Kawhi in those same situations, are those teams as successful? Now, that's not to say Kawhi won't have his own success, because Kawhi, like I said, I think Kawhi's a good player. I'm just saying, as a superstar, you should be able to put that team on your back and carry that load. And I just don't think Kawhi is capable of that. And that's just not even, like I said, that's not even having anything to do with him being hurt a lot or the load managing. I'm just saying that skill-wise and mindset-wise, I don't think he has the talent that separates him from the pack. Like I said, he kind of falls in the sense, and I don't really want to compare these two because I think he's a little bit better, but he kind of falls in the sense of like a Paul George, because we know Paul George is good. He's really good. Like, we all know Paul George to be really, really good, but when it really matters and he's the sole piece and he has to be the guy to take you to the promised land, he can't do it. And neither can Kawhi. So it's like, I can't put him in the superstar caliber. And then people will say like, oh, well, if I mentioned LeBron, Jordan, or Kobe, it was like, well, you can't compare Kawhi to that. Well, if he's a superstar, if you're a superstar, you got to be compared to that. If we take somebody like KD, we can throw KD in with LeBron and with Jordan and Kobe, and people will be like, yeah, that makes sense, because KD has proven what he can do in those moments. Kawhi hasn't had enough of those moments for me. Everything has kind of been set up for Kawhi in like in perfect positioning, and I know that's not Kawhi's fault, but that's just kind of how the trajectory of his career has gone. Like I said, when he first got to the Spurs, he was with Tony Parker, Tim Duncan, Manu Ginobili, prime Tony Parker, Tim Duncan, and Manu Ginobili. May I mention prime? So when you get to play behind those guys, yeah, you're gonna look a lot better, because the other team has to account for those three. They're not even expecting you. So the fact that you come, you the cherry on top, you the sprinkles on top of the cake. You ain't the main ingredients though. When he went to Toronto, even with that Toronto team, he wasn't the leader of that. And he was the best player in that team. Don't get me wrong, because I mean, Kyle Lowry is not Kawhi Leonard. Like, let's not get misconstrued. But he wasn't the sole, like, the driving force behind that team, because again, Kyle Lowry is such a basketball savant and such a really good point guard that you had to account for that. So again, he gets to play behind somebody else. We've never seen him in a situation where he has to be the sole focal point of the team to lead his team. So then again, you're playing behind somebody else. Then you go to the Clippers. You ask for all these demands. I'm not coming unless you get Paul George. Why? Because if things go wrong, who are people naturally going to blame? Paul George, not Kawhi Leonard. They're not going. No. They're not going to blame Kawhi Leonard, because he's such the cyborg and he's all of these things. When the chips fell, who did they say choked the most? Paul George or Kawhi Leonard? They said Paul George. No, I mean, honestly, it probably, now that you said that, probably was a little bit neck and neck, because they both kind of caught the flack especially in the bubble, like when they had the 3-1 lead on Denver, and then last year they kind of both got the flag. But even then, like Kawhi made some very questionable decisions in last year's playoffs, and everybody still was looking at Paul George like where was he at? And it's like that's not fair to him because it wasn't all on him. Kawhi, if he's a superstar that I'm told he is, there shouldn't have been no question or no doubt. If you got Rajon Rondo who's not even a great shooter, is looking at you sideways, questioning you, there's a problem. There's an issue. So
and that was a bad shot. That was
and absolutely.
So he deserves the flack on that one. He deserves
for sure. And I just don't think that. And also, when you think of superstar, and LeBron had this problem up until he didn't, is that when you think of superstar, that you have to prove yourself. You have to prove yourself in those down, like those crutch moments, those moments where you have to, like I said, lead your team to the promised land. Have we seen enough Kawhi to see him do that? Because Kawhi's not a great clutch performer. Now, as far as like over in like in the totality of the fourth quarter, sure, but in those last couple minutes, he's not the person that the ball is in their hands. Like he's not that guy. And even a Skip Bayless guy who loves Kawhi, he'll say that himself. He's not a great under 2 minutes. That's not where he excels. Now he can lead you up to those 2 minutes. That's a given. But when it comes down to who's going to make the decision and who's going to take the shot or who's going to be the guy to send it over the edge and put the nail in the coffin, Kawhi ain't that dude. He's proven that he's not. He's not a great decision maker in those clutch moments, and there's tape to prove it. There's tape to prove it. So I just feel like there's just so many things. There's a lot of loopholes, I guess, in my whole argument is what I'm saying is there's a lot of loopholes as to why, to me, Kawhi Leonard is not a superstar. There's just too many strings you got to tie together to kind of make it in its totality, and that's the issue that I have with Kawhi.
Okay, all right, Mike, floor's yours. Go ahead.
I will say, whereas Kawhi hasn't had the most clutch moments, that Philly series definitely did solidify to me that he can do it. Just not at an effective rate like Elena's saying, but I definitely do give Kawhi props because that was one hell of a shot. And being a huge Jimmy Butler supporter, that man broke my heart that night. And JJ Redick, but the rest of them I don't care for. But it definitely is something with Kawhi. I treat him the way he should be treated, and I treat him the way that I feel like a lot of the league doesn't. You look at Derrick Rose, you look at Klay Thompson, you look at guys who have gotten injured and have missed back-to-back seasons and have missed seasons and a lot of playing time due to load management and due to so much. Now, like I said on the ASAP Network, I truly do think Kawhi Leonard is a superstar. I think talent-wise, tangible-wise, not so much leadership-wise, but you don't need to be a leader to be a superstar. That's incorrect. A false narrative. But, I definitely think he is one of the best defenders in the league. I definitely do think he's a great scorer. And I definitely do think there's a lot of people that hate on Kawhi. Now, me personally, why I say I don't consider him a superstar right now is because of the unknowns. And I think it's because, you look at what he did, and Elena made a great point. He wasn't a star on that Spurs team. Now, again, he had Bron cussing himself out. He had Bron pissed during those, and Bron still averaged 28 points per game during that series, but he definitely did give Bron a hard time. And I give him that credit, and I give him that, pedigree that, you did win 2 NBA championships. You brought the first one to Toronto. So all due power to you. I respect you for it. Here's my problem. If KD and Klay don't go down and you don't make that shot against Philly, I don't think we're talking about Kawhi Leonard the way we are talking about right now. And there's a lot into that, though. I think that's unfair because you could say and if and what's and buts about everybody. What if this person didn't make that shot? What if he didn't block him? What if Bron didn't block them in the Cleveland Warriors game? What would have happened if he didn't block that shot? If Kyrie didn't hit the shot, would we be talking about them differently? You definitely do. My problem with Kawhi is I don't know. For a superstar, to me at least, you need to be that guy. And you need to be out there, and you need to be able to be there with your teammates. The problem with Kawhi is more of, I saw you in so much load management. You're missing 30-plus games this season, 20 to 30-plus games, which is perfectly fine. If you don't feel 100%, that's fine. Where I was coming from was more of you just tore your ACL. You're already in your 30s, and you've already been missing 30-plus games. So what I'm saying is when I see Kawhi Leonard come back, how much load management is Kawhi really going to be on? That was a joke I made, but it was a serious question at the same time. Are we going to see Kawhi play once or twice a week? Like, is it going to look like that? what is it going to look like? If you are a superstar, I need to see you on the floor the majority of the night leading that team. I can't see you riding coattails and just going off your talent and when you feel like it. Like, to me, Kobe Bryant, played through so many injuries. And you saw Bron do it, and you've seen in a young age. Now Bron, understands, at this age, it's understandable, and especially with this high-powered team, you can do things like that. But at a young age, you didn't see Bron miss a lot of games. You didn't see Jordan miss a lot of games. And that's because there's people from all around the world coming to see you. And if I go to a game all the way in Toronto, if I fly there, go to Toronto in 2018 to go watch Kawhi Leonard play, and I find out that the only reason he's not playing is because he doesn't feel like it, I feel like you lose that credibility. You're still a superstar talent, but are you a superstar in the world of the NBA? I definitely think, you look at it from that perspective, and you need to be able to, night in and night out, show the world that you are there and you are present. Whereas Kawhi, with the team, with the Clippers, you saw how Patrick Beverley and so many others who are all currently off the team, might have to point that out as well, we're complaining about him being late to practices, being late to plane rides and bus rides, having to hold up everything for him. Bless you. But, it's definitely something you look at it from that perspective, and you have to understand that as great as he is, I just think the best ability is availability, and Kawhi is not available. And I have the same thing. I'm a huge Klay Thompson fan, but you need to understand that until I see Klay come back and be that guy on both sides of the floor, I can't call him the superstar again until you prove that to me. Because it's been 2 years. The last time, there's that crazy statistic out there that Jimmy Butler was a 76er and Russ was still with OKC or something crazy the last time that Klay Thompson played a game in the NBA. So it's definitely something you need to take in consideration. Now, Kawhi's a little bit different. He hasn't missed 2 years in a row, but he hasn't played a fully healthy season in God knows how long. So that's
since
my
he
thing.
started, honestly.
Now, right, a superstar caliber guy, his game speaks for itself. It's superstar level, but him as a person, I think, kind of degrades that, and it kind of lessens that. I think he's a superstar player. I just think, his mind and the way he goes about it, I don't give him that superstar pedigree that I would other individuals.
All right, so first and foremost, when it comes to him being available, I agree with you that availability is the best availability. I'm with you there. But if we're gonna call Joel Embiid a superstar,
I didn't
call that's kind of my thing. Like, you can hear me?
I did.
Oh,
no, y'all can.
Okay.
No, I just.
Okay. Yeah, but that's just my thing. Like, if we're gonna call Joel Embiid a superstar, and he's never played over 65 games, Kawhi Leonard has done that multiple times in his career.
Right, but I never called Joel Embiid.
No, I did.
No.
I'm not saying health-wise. Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, and I understand about the whole load management. Look, I'm not the biggest fan on load management. I don't like it. I feel like if you're healthy, you should go out and play. So I'm with you guys there. I genuinely do believe that. But at the same time, we're talking about a guy who, not only he's been the whole load management thing, but we got to stop pretending like he just came in the league and was like that. Like the load management. If you want to hold that against him, then we need to hold it against Tim Duncan. We also need to hold it against Tony Parker and Manu Ginobili.
Because they started that. Yeah, you're right.
The Spurs was kind of and the thing is, people don't really know why the Spurs lasted as long as they did. Well, it's pretty simple, because of load management. Because Pop was willing to sacrifice a few games here and there to rest the starters. So come playoffs, he was able to go, look, we're going full steam ahead. You guys had your rest, and this is where we're going for.
Right.
Look, Kawhi Leonard dropped a 3-1. Okay? Not going to defend it. That was horrible. Him and Paul George, Doc Rivers, the entire team as a whole failed. Period. They all have something to do with it. So I'm going to give you that there. But at the same time, when they like the games that they've won, Kawhi Leonard was frankly far and away their best player.
Right.
It wasn't even close. It's to the point where he, I don't think it was last year. I think it was the year before last, when they won every game they won in the fourth quarter, more specifically in the final 8 minutes of every fourth quarter. Kawhi Leonard had, in all the games they won, had a total of 16 field goals.
Right.
And ask me, how many did he miss? Not one. He had 7 free throws. How many did he miss? Not one. And these things are coming at the end of the fourth quarter, the last 8 minutes, and he's taking shots at the 8-minute mark. He's taking shots within the 2-minute mark because there were, for all the shots that he can't do, there's been multiple games that ended on a Kawhi Leonard free throw. Now, I'm not going to bring up the 76 the Sixers win because that's kind of the one people usually go to. But if you go back to the San Antonio days, there were times where they called on his number, and there have been times where they ran plays for him and he made them. And there have been, it's more specifically mid-range because Kawhi Leonard loves shooting the mid-range.
Yeah.
That's where he's like, you know what I mean? And to touch on your point about that stupid corner 3-point shot he shot when Rondo got in his face, I'm not going to defend that because that was a stupid, that he got it and waited for the defense to come and then he shot it. So I not only is that dumb on him, but I support Rondo getting in his face because that was a stupid shot. That was a stupid shot, and I was hoping one of them was mic'd up because I'm very curious to hear the excuse. Because I want to know, like, why do you think this was a good shot? And Mike, I was telling Elena this. I'm not a huge Kawhi Leonard fan. I'm not. I like him, but you, like, she's making me have to think too. No, you two. I can't be looking at you. You guys are making me defend him when I'm really not the biggest fan of his. Like look, ever since he's came into the league. Right? Since the 2015-2016 season, he's averaged nothing under 20 points per game.
Right. Yeah. And that was my point, Pride. That was my point to why I didn't mean to cut you off, but that's why I said, on the network too, Kawhi Leonard was, in my opinion, a superstar. He definitely was that guy. But after the ACL injury, there's a lot of questions I have about how available is he going to be even after that. And also, Pride, we're talking about playoffs. What bothered me the most was if you look back at last year's series and throughout the entire thing, their best player, could you name him for me? It was Terrence Mann. It was Terrence Mann doing his thing. Mm-hmm. It wasn't PG. It wasn't Kawhi. The guy.
Yeah, he came in clutch a lot of times for them.
Here's the thing. I'm not going to say Terrence Mann was their best player. But I will.
If you look at it and you say who was the most effective,
he was probably their best performer.
It was Terrence Mann.
And in the clutch, I'll meet you guys in the middle and say in the clutch because there were some great performances. Terrence Mann, especially when it came to crunch time. That he
honestly, they don't make it out. I don't think they make it out of the first round without Terrence Mann.
Right.
If they don't have Terrence Mann, they don't make it out of the first round.
You can make that argument.
Right. And that's my problem though, Pride, because it's like it's not just on Kawhi. That's on PG. And honestly, that's on Pat Bev. For all that shit Pat Bev talks, you're not that guy either. So, it doesn't make sense to me. You have these guys getting paid so much money, and the guy at the end of the day to step up is Terrence Mann, which I understand. Terrence Mann, might get that Kawhi treatment now. A young Kawhi Leonard to the point where, he's surrounded by great talent, and maybe this elevates his career later on. And maybe one day we're talking about Terrence Mann the way we're talking about Kawhi. That's not saying that he will, but it's saying he's very young, so we'll see what happens. Guys step up. But the fact that they weren't willing to step up to me is what bothers me. And I think that Kawhi, to me, was a top 5 player during that Toronto year and definitely was, a great player prior to that, and he was a superstar. But where I look at it is, when Derrick Rose goes down with those ACL injuries, you have a lot of people saying he's done. You have a lot of people saying this, and that. And I won't let Kawhi Leonard slide like that. I won't let anyone slide like that because the way they treated Clay, the way they treated Rose, the way they've treated Russ after his injuries, and so many others. And CP3, Melo, so many others you have questions about. So I definitely need to see how Kawhi comes back. As of right now, because of what I've seen from the past, and especially now after a 30-plus-year-old tearing his ACL who was already on load management to begin with and didn't feel comfortable playing if he wasn't 100%. That first year after an ACL tear, I think we can all agree, you don't play great until your second year off of it. So I'm really curious to see how Kawhi plays after that first year. Will he have a superstar caliber year? Or will it just be like Kawhi trying to get his foot back in the door? So I can't say anything until I see Kawhi. Now, was he a superstar? Without a doubt. I never said he wasn't. And Joel Embiid, again, to your point, I think he's on his way. I don't think he's there yet. Again, superstar talent. But I need to see him officially take that step. And I think him just shitting on Ben and taking that role as the number one guy definitely does help that.
That catapult. And that's kind of, I guess, more I should have elaborated a little bit more when I said Joel was and Kawhi wasn't, is because He's in a prime position right now to take that next step because of the Ben Simmons drama and everything that's going on. Because now it's solely on him. So now we're gonna see what Joel Embiid is made of. Because now you put it out there like, look, I don't really care if this dude is here or not. I'm gonna do what I have to do. I'm gonna do what I'm supposed to do. I know what kind of player I am. So I'm just gonna elevate my game and my teammates, and we're just gonna see how it works. So I'm interested to see how that dynamic works. But like I said, I guess my biggest issue with Kawhi and why I'm hesitant to put him in that superstar category is that because, like I said, when he was the hunter, we could argue all day. Absolutely, he was a superstar time because he, like I said, it was the expectation. There wasn't the expectation. It was just like, well, who is this guy? And he just kind of kept elevating, and then but when he came on that when he was on that center stage, and he put his exactly, and you put that flashlight on his name, and he became the hunted. He kind of digressed to me. Like there was kind of a drop off a little bit. It was. Exactly. He didn't really seize that and be like, okay, well, if y'all coming for me, come on. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like we've seen Bron in those situations. We've seen how he's responded. We've seen Kobe in those situations, KD, et cetera, et cetera. Like they've all proven once they were the hunted that they could take that to that next level. Kawhi hasn't really given me that just yet. Like I haven't seen it. And I'm not saying that he's not capable of it, but I just haven't seen enough of that to put him in that superstar category for me. Like, to me, you've got to separate yourself. And there's been a lot of times where he's deferred more so than separated himself. And that's the issue that I have with him.
So, okay. So by your logic, LeBron James is not a superstar then?
What do you mean?
LeBron James the first.
I'm not. No, I don't. No. I think you misconstrued what I said because I'm not talking about just deferring as far as like plays wise. Like, you know what I'm saying? Because of course LeBron's deferred. We've seen him pass the ball and you know what I'm saying in crunch time. So yes, all superstars at some point have deferred. I'm saying just in totality. I'm saying like just where he just doesn't take that next step to seize that moment. He kind of falls in the background a little bit.
If I could help, like from an outside perspective, I view it as you saying when the gun's in your face.
Yeah,
Kawhi's out there laying down, and Kawhi's like when you're down in that series,
exactly.
When you have that 3-1 and you blow it, it's definitely something where when people start coming at you, you kind of roll over.
And that's what I'm saying. Yes,
right.
Yes,
he's still a dog, but you see Bron going down with a fight. You see Kobe going down, KD going down. You know, you saw KD loses Kyrie and Harden at different times, and he's still out there.
Yeah, and KD was giving me
like with Kawhi
50 points. Yes.
Kawhi, it's all right, fine. Terrence Mann's got it, or PG's got it. Or
That's what I'm saying. That's the issue that absolutely, Mike. You explained it a lot better than I could.
Mentality, I think Kawhi lacks.
But it's not.
That's just not his personality. That's just not Kawhi. It's not that. It's not taking anything away from him.
Yeah, because this is where I give pushback, right? Like he listen. The only thing you can say on him where Kawhi Leonard messed up was that 3-1. That's really the only thing. And
last year too.
Well, he got injured. And by the way, remember when I was saying all those stats about in the fourth quarter he didn't miss?
Yeah.
That was last year.
Right. But in the bubble as well. In the bubble as well.
Yeah, for sure.
In the bubble,
but let me ask you this though, Pride. In the bubble, was Kawhi in that playoff series when PG was literally historic ass? Was Kawhi averaging over 30 points a game? Was Kawhi taking it to the next level in spite of PG not being available? That's where I look at it and say, when you look at, Kevin Love isn't available, Bron's going off.
But that's different. That's different.
Yeah. No, it's not. No, it is.
I'm explaining why it's different. When you have LeBron on your team, you understand with LeBron, there's certain things that LeBron's gonna need. So LeBron's gonna tell you, bro, I'm gonna take over. These are things. Kawhi Leonard's the type of dude where he's just silent. He's not really gonna galvanize with you. He speaks more with his play. Did he average 30? No, he didn't. But again, to say that because of he didn't average 30, that doesn't make him a superstar. I think that's unfair because if we put LeBron in that same situation and he doesn't average 30, we're not killing him. We're gonna look at you and say, all right, Bron, what are you working with? If let's say it was Kyrie out and he's not averaging 30, I'm not gonna kill him. If he's averaging like 28 or something like that, I'll accept that. But for me, it really comes down to when Kawhi Leonard comes on the court,
right?
he's the guy. He's the guy you have to game plan around. And when Kawhi Leonard was when he was in Toronto, he was that guy. Elena, you said that he really wasn't the leader. It was Kyle Lowry. I disagree. I say there was 2 leaders on that team. In terms of vocalness and who's going to speak, that was Kyle Lowry. Kyle Lowry was the guy in the silence who was talking to the guys and galvanizing them. When there was times where Kyle Lowry wasn't talking, where he himself was down. And that's when Kawhi Leonard would speak, not vocally, but through his play, where he would straight up dominate and then look at everyone and go, you got coming with me? And it's kind of unfair to just solely blame on when, mind you, when he literally carried that Toronto team to the finals, and every single series, he was the best player on the court, regardless of either team. He was the best player on the court. And if you're going to say, oh, yeah, well, he didn't hit every clutch shot, I'll give you that. He didn't hit every clutch shot, but he hit some clutch shots. Right. And he hit just enough for me to look at him and say he's a superstar. Because I'm gonna tell you this right now: if the shot clock is off and there's only 10 seconds left, the ball's gonna be in Kawhi Leonard's hand. And that's one dude that if he's got the ball in his hand, and at me as a Celtics fan, we're playing him, I'm going to be nervous because I know Kawhi has a solid 3-point game. I know his mid-range is vicious. And on top of that, Kawhi now understands that, look, it doesn't always have to be me. If I have to defer, it is what it is. I'm out here trying to get the best shot. He's trying to play like a LeBron. And that's what he's doing. And personally, ain't no way I'm going to look at a guy who his first year dropped 27. He his first year in LA, he was averaging 27. This past year, he was averaging almost 25. For me to call him not a superstar, and on top of that, we're completely negating that when it comes to defense, he takes the best player. Like, he goes out there and it's like, who's the best player? I'm taking him. And sometimes he'll let Paul George do it. But again, this goes to the leadership. When Paul George is getting cooked, Kawhi doesn't say anything. He doesn't go to the coach. He didn't go to Doc and say, well, he didn't do that. He went up to him. He grabbed Paul George and said, go over there, and he would lock down. So for me, he ticks off a lot of the boxes. Like, he is clutch. Right. He is. Now, is he the clutchest player in the league? No, I'm not going to make that argument. But for me, he's clutch enough. He's clutch enough where if you're worried about him having the ball at the end of the game, to me, that's clutch enough. Like, if you're nervous about Luka Doncic having the ball in his hand, LeBron James, Kyrie Irving, Dame Lillard, you're worried about those guys having the ball. Kawhi Leonard is in that category. Now, in that category,
I don't agree with that.
I think he is. He's in that category. He's not the top. He's not on the LeBron level or the KD level, but he's still in that tier. But he's probably towards the bottom of it. And like I said, if just you being in that tier gives you the ability to call yourself a superstar, because again, offensively and defensively, everywhere Kawhi Leonard has been after Tim Duncan and Manu and Tony Parker retired, he's been the best player on that team.
Right.
So
when he wanted to play,
I look at it like that is, you come to LA, you got the crown and the dice in the mirror, and I'm seeing all this.
Come on, Mike.
And I completely understand that. I understand that.
The whole Kawhi time thing.
At that time, Kawhi was going down as one of the best players in the league. There were a lot of conversations about it. There were people like Max Kellerman saying this guy is the guy. Bron's time is over.
He said he was better than Kobe.
Yeah.
No, he didn't say that. He said he was better than Kobe.
More clutch. He was more clutch than Kobe.
We ain't gonna get into Kobe, but
I understood what he meant by that. My thing was the way I looked at it is because I think you can have defensive plays be clutch.
Right.
If he went that route, I would say
I wouldn't.
Okay.
He was
just saying
offensively. Max was just trying to be different, but
He said it was just offense.
He was just going.
Because who was it? I think it was Williams was like, okay, name me those moments, and he was just like, okay, how about this? And it's like, no, bro, but you gotta name
it. You said Iguodala just to be different. Like, but my point is though. I understand what you're saying. Kawhi was a superstar, and I definitely think that he could continue to be. But I need to see how you are when you come back, and it could take a year or so to find that Kawhi again. And that's the problem, you see, because when you take that step down, Derrick Rose has that step down for so long.
You got people that are rising up during that step down time.
Yeah. Back over. And Clay's going to be doing the same thing, and so many others are doing the same thing, and we've seen that. Melo's dropping 28, and you still say, oh, he's a great role player. Like, no, Melo played like a superstar the other night, but nobody gets the balls to go out there and still say he's a superstar because he's not in the Kawhi's aging.
Right.
Kawhi's injured. Kawhi has a catastrophic injury that typically takes 2 years before you're fully yourself again. So I need to look at Kawhi from that perspective and say, I understand who you are. I understand what you did. But what happened when you entered the Clippers organization, it wasn't that same dog that I saw traded to Toronto. It wasn't that same guy that said, I'm finally free. I'm not with Pop. I'm not in that situation anymore. I don't have to do that. I'm ready to win a championship. Final shot, one of the greatest shots I've ever seen ever. He's not that guy. I didn't see him taking those shots. And you see the beef with him and his teammates. Now all of those teammates are gone. I'm starting to see not a prima donna, but like a situation where I felt like
he is.
Prima donna. Oh yeah, he's a prima donna.
But to say a prima donna, you have to be vocal. So I don't think he's very vocal.
Okay,
not necessarily.
He's a quiet prima donna.
Your actions can be prima donna like too.
Right.
You don't have to.
He's prima donna like. Okay.
Yeah.
That's the thing though. I think he's a quiet prima donna. He's that kid who doesn't talk in class, and when you have to work with him in the group project, he ain't there. But vocally, he's not there. But he's a dog. He's a dog at the end of the day. But I can't sit here and say that, okay, well, I'm giving Kyrie, a little flock for not being here. I'm giving Clay and D Rose and Carmelo and others flock for getting injured or just, falling off a little bit. But I can't do the same to Kawhi. That's where I'm coming from. I need to see Kawhi come back, not just be that guy you were with the Clippers, but I need to see Toronto Raptors Kawhi Leonard come back when you come back. And I understand it'll take some time. But, if you take more than 2 years, I can't call you a superstar anymore. I'll say you're
and
Bilana, let me just put swing
go
it.
Go ahead.
I'll let you say anything.
Go ahead.
When it comes to me seeing guys being injured, I give them the benefit of the doubt. I still call them superstars. I just don't rank them. Like in terms of, who do you think is a top 10 player? I don't rank them because then it's like,
And that's where I'm at.
Right. So I get it. You don't want to see. I usually give them the benefit of the doubt until they come on and for a long period of time are scrubs. Now, if like you said, if 2 years after that, Kawhi Leonard is putting up an inefficient 20 points per game, now I'm gonna be like, okay, it might be time to hop off it. You know what I mean? Right. So when you say it like that, I get it. I'm still going to give him the benefit of the doubt, mostly because
we did the same thing with KD. We did the same thing with KD. Is he going to be the same, or is it going to be like?
And we still called him a superstar, right? Like I'm in the minority where I still call you a superstar. I just want to see how you come back.
But see, the difference with KD is that KD had proven, like we've seen enough evidence of KD to know, even if he didn't come back, let's say if he came back 80%. It still would be enough. As Kevin Durant currently constructed, an 80% KD is still better than a majority of the league. So it's like he was still going to be a superstar irregardless. And like and to your point prior, how you were saying like he's not a vocal guy. Like when the chips are kind of bad, he just leads with his play. But what happens when his play isn't good enough? That's the problem. It's like there's been times where he's not playing well, and he's just like, and he don't talk. So it's just like I'm gonna just keep doing what I do. And then whatever else happens is whatever else happens. Like it just,
and that's what separates him from others, I think.
Exactly, exactly. It's like that's where the drop off is for me, because when it comes to when we look at the other guys that we consider superstars, if they're not playing well, they're at least in somebody's ear, or they're at least they're gonna say, okay, well, I'm not having, even if they don't talk much, because D Rose don't talk much either. He's not a talker.
Right, he's an introvert.
Yeah, he's an introvert through and through. But at least D Rose always had the awareness enough that even if he wasn't playing well, all right, I'm gonna make these assists, I'm gonna make defensive plays, I'm gonna stick my hand in here, stick my hand in there. Like it's not one of those things where I'm gonna just keep I'm gonna just do what I want, and then we just gonna have to figure it out around that. That's kind of Kawhi's mentality a lot of the times. It's like I'm just gonna do what I want, and y'all gonna have to figure it out from there. And if we win, we win. If we lose, we lose.
And I get it.
You know what I mean?
I get that if there weren't guys like Dwight Howard who did that. We called him a superstar when he was Orlando, and he really wasn't being that much of a lead. He kind of let it with play.
Yeah.
Vince
He
Carter,
was goofy.
Right, Vince Carter, Tracy Mcgrady. There have been guys who we've called superstars who don't really do it. Like if you really look at Vince Carter, he didn't really become a leader until he got older and was a veteran where he was kind of bouncing around. That's when he was a leader.
Did we consider Vince a superstar though?
Like, 100%. 110%. even with his injury. But people call him a superstar right before he signed the contract.
Superstar.
He was. Right before he signed the contract with Toronto, he was a superstar. Got traded to the Nets, and he was still considered a superstar. I don't think people really didn't look at him as a superstar until probably his last year in New Jersey. That's probably when the dip off people were probably looking at him.
Okay.
But and with Tracy,
you got that superstar flock because of the dunking and because of everything.
Yeah, like I'm not sure if we.
As an overall player, he still was a superstar.
Yeah, I mean he was solid. Like compared to others.
I don't think we put him in that. I mean, you make a good point. But I don't.
Okay, fine. Then Tracy McGrady, right? When Tracy McGrady,
I'll give you traded.
When T-Mac got traded from Toronto, I think he went right to Orlando when he got traded. When they were beefing because Tracy McGrady wanted his own team. When he got traded, he was just balling out. And you can even say the same to an extent when he was in Houston. You can maybe even say to the same extent. When he started getting older in his career, more specifically the Spurs, that's when you kind of start seeing him kind of being a vocal leader. So my thing is, Kawhi Leonard is still technically in his prime. So, yeah, he's not vocal. I see him on the court. I'll see him, especially defensively. I'll see it. And, again, I've seen him to the point where he'll get the ball and he'll pass it to a Terrence Mann, to a Luke Kennard, and they kind of look back at him, and he's kind of pointing at them. So, like, he's not a vocal leader. But he's more of like a kind of like Kobe, where Kobe. Let's be honest, Kobe really wasn't a leader when he spoke. When he spoke, he was just disrespecting the.
Yeah, it was vicious. It was just vicious. Yeah.
Yeah, he was in his mind. He's like, hey, look, man, y'all can't beat me on the court, and y'all can't beat me with your mouth. So that's really how it was.
And we can fight.
Look, man, I will say this in my dying breath. I am pretty sure Kobe Bryant has fought somebody in the locker room.
Yeah,
and they're like, oh no, not Kobe. Like, I'm telling you right now, Kobe Bryant.
Kobe slammed Reggie Miller over the little scores table. People forget that.
Yeah, so I'm like, look, man, he got pieced by Rajay Bell. And that's in the back of his mind, and that's been in his mind since the day it happened. So in his mind, he's like, that's not happening again. I'm fighting somebody. But Kobe really wasn't a vocal leader. He kind of was more of a do as I do. Like, I'm going to
an intimidating leader.
Exactly. I'm going to play on the court. I'm leading the way, and you guys are behind me. And to a lesser degree, because, again, Kawhi isn't really a vocal guy, because if you didn't follow Kobe, he would violate you. Kawhi's kind of like that, where I'm not going to speak to you. I'm not going to tell you really what we're going to do. I'm going to play. You guys be behind me. And if I'm having a horrible night, whoever's behind me steps up.
Step. Yeah, but yeah.
Right, but that's my problem, though. That's my problem. And it's why I deemed Luka, Luka I've followed for years now. And now that he's finally in the NBA, I can say because that he played with grown men for as long as he did in his upbringing in Europe. That's why you see guys like Luka going up against the Clippers, knowing he's going to lose this series, knowing that Porzingis isn't that guy, knowing that Hardaway isn't that guy. I don't care. I'm putting the balls in my hand right now, and I'm going to win you this series. I think the biggest thing with Kawhi is when guys like PG come in, and when guys like Terrence Mann and Pat Bev and all these other guys, Ibaka, whoever, down the line, even if Doc wasn't having the greatest play calling type of nights and game planning type of nights, you look at it from that perspective, you replace them with Kobe, Bron, Luka, or others, they're going to take that ball, and correct me if I'm wrong, they're going to get buckets with or without the rest of the team. Whereas Kawhi, I feel like, still gives his teammates opportunities, and that's where I think it makes him, I think, a good teammate. I think definitely is where you need to understand that superstar caliber players and real dog type mentality guys are going to take that ball, say, fuck you, and whoever else is missing.
It's the demand. Yeah, they're going to demand. Yeah.
I'm hooping, and I don't care what the rest of y'all are doing. With
right,
Kawhi, you're more passive.
Yeah, but the thing is, when LeBron, because listen, let's be honest, LeBron really wasn't that uber aggressive until his second stint in Cleveland. And we were still calling him a superstar.
No, that first stint in Cleveland, he was hooping.
No, but I'm talking about aggressive. I'm talking about the aggressive thing.
The first stint in Cleveland, he didn't give a shit about anybody on that team. He said,
it was different.
He was aggressive because he had to be aggressive in that situation because who else was going to be the aggressor?
No. No. You the first stint in Cleveland, I could have made that roster, right? So you don't really have anybody dependable, right? Look, man, let's call it what it is. The three of us can break our necks, be completely paralyzed, and we would still be in that rotation getting heavy minutes. So,
Sure.
But the thing is with that first thing, Cleveland, there was really no talent, right? So there was no one he could really rely on, right? He went to Miami. He was passive. Which me personally,
that first year he was passive. Yes, you're right.
And the second year as well.
Yeah, no, I think
I'm not as passive, but he still was passive. You can see.
I disagree because I feel like in that second year is because after that first year when they lost the way that they did, I feel like that's when him and Dwayne Wade had that conversation where Dwayne Wade was like, "You got to be the guy. You got to be the one."
Time to implement it on the court.
Yeah, there was times. There was times he still had to adjust and still had to okay, because you know what I'm saying. I think in the back of his mind, he's like, I done came to this team. This is D Wade. Like he's, this is Wade County. So I still don't want to. But once, I would say those first maybe 15 games, he was still kind of teetering the line a little bit. But after that, once he stepped his foot on the gas, it was no looking back. Like we could never question LeBron's aggressive.
Right, but he wasn't as aggressive as you guys are making him seem to be. He still was relatively passive to where there are times where Mike Miller was out here on fire. And what would he do? He would give him the ball. Which, again, I'm not blaming him. I'm not. My thing is, listen, I would hoop. And when I hoop, who's got the hot hand? You got the hot hand? I don't care if I'm better than you, worse than you, equal than you. I don't care. You got the hot hand. I'm giving you the ball, right?
For sure.
But we didn't really see this uber Bron where, give me the ball, get out the way. If if I got to average 40, I'll drop 40. We didn't see that, Bron. And that's what you guys like the names you guys brought up. Those are the guys who go, oh, I need to average 40. Okay, 45, here we come. That's the names you brought. So my thing is, okay, Kawhi Leonard doesn't do that. But again, to say just because of that he's not a superstar. I think that's. Oh no, I'm talking Elena because Elena's the one who said.
Yeah.
But I get your point, Mike. You're kind of more along the lines of he was a superstar when he got injured. He's injured. Let's see how he plays before we give him back that title.
Yeah.
So I get you. Elena's like, he's not a superstar. Period. She screw Kawhi.
I just like I said, I just haven't seen enough. And like I said, I'm not saying Kawhi is a horrible player or anything like that. Kawhi's great. Don't get me wrong. He's done incredible things, and he's made quite a career for himself. It's just I haven't seen it. I guess more so what I'm trying to say is I haven't seen it consistently enough throughout the years just to put him in the same category that we put the other superstars in. We've seen LeBron's had a couple stints with a couple different teams in those first 8 years in Cleveland. No question was that guy. You know what I'm saying? He was just it was consistent there. The only thing LeBron really had to figure out was being a more consistent jump shooter. But you can never question, you know what I'm saying, as far as what LeBron was bringing to the table. First time, even in Miami, same thing. He still had he had things to figure out, but still we could never question. There's just a lot of questions with Kawhi. What if he's not healthy? What if he's not feeling it? What if he's not there's just so many what ifs with him, and that's why I can't really put him in that superstar category, because it should be without a shadow of a doubt that this is who I am. This is what I bring, and this is I'm a superstar because of these reasons. With Kawhi, there's just like I said, there's just so many up and down, so many mixed mixed emotions as it pertains to his game. But that's I guess like I said, that's just me, and I know that's probably not the most popular opinion because a lot of people have Kawhi as a superstar. Me personally, I don't.
I'll say this. Kawhi didn't want to be in Toronto, and he balled out. That's all I'm saying. But
because he was trying to get to LA.
That's all he really wanted. And I will give you guys something. His second year in LA, he did kind of dip. I think that's more of the realization because I'm one of the people who think the first year he went to LA was the best chance they had at winning a ring.
For sure.
And I think for each year longer that that him and Paul George specifically are together, that the percentages just go down.
Close. Yeah, that window closes. Yeah.
Right, the window for them is just consistently closing, and they're just it's not going to open. And I think Kawhi Leonard knows that. I think he understands that. Look, man, if I'm gonna have to running game Paul George, because people forget Paul George wasn't his number one guy. He called Kyrie. Kyrie said no. Then he called Jimmy Butler, and Butler was like, "Look, man, I want to have my own team." Then he tried to hit up Kemba to try to force something to happen, and Kemba was like, "Look, I'm chilling."
Yeah,
So
I'm good.
Then he's selling.
Yeah, but you also forget about the dog shit that he did with Russ. I mean, Russ called him, and Russ said, "Hey, let's team up." And then Kawhi got the idea of, you know what? I'm gonna call PG, tell him what Russ is up to, and I'm gonna get PG before Russ can even go anywhere. So that's
and
what
he duped the Lakers. He duped the Lakers too.
Yeah, because everyone thought he was gonna go. So I mean, look, Kawhi Leonard. If you ever see this, you probably won't. But if you ever do, I had your back. Okay.
Kawhi,
so,
he was a slick bastard.
I'm just throwing that out there.
Brody. I hope Brody tears your ass up.
Yeah, I don't. He does.
Look, I'm gonna tell you this right now. Russ won't beat me up. Okay, he won't beat me up. He gonna be too busy yelling at someone on the sidelines that'll give me
I meant Kawhi, not you.
Oh, no, okay.
Listen, man. Kawhi won't beat me up. He'll just look at me and be like, "Bro, you're not even worth it." He'll walk away from me. Like he'll be like, "You're not worth it." I'll put my hands in my pockets and just kick a rock on the floor and be like, "You're not worth it." Like I'll be so in my I'll be.
Who wins the fight between Russ and Kawhi? I think Mike was saying Russ. I'm gonna go Russ too.
Russ
fight with Russ and Kawhi. Russ is ghetto.
I'm gonna tell you this right now. I'm going Kawhi.
What?
And I'm gonna tell you why. When those quiet dudes start talking,
that's a good point.
And not to say that Russ probably ain't got that dog in him. We all know that's just a given. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you might as well change Russ' name to Dog with 2 G's, pretend like Snoop Dogg's cousin or something.
Yeah, it depends how the fight starts. Now, if Kawhi doesn't get the stretch for 15 minutes before, I think he's gonna tear something, and the fight doesn't even happen. So, you know, look at it like that.
No, and Kawhi do got some big hands. He got some big hands.
He do. Look, man. Look, honestly,
Russ got huge.
Oh no, Russ, for his side, Russ got huge hands too. I'm gonna tell you this right now. Yeah, I'm gonna tell you this right now. If that were to ever be a fight, if we ever find out they had beef, I need Dana White to get involved and be like, "Look, we gonna get this UFC pay-per-view," because I think that would be a hell of a fight. Yeah, I would love that fight. You know who I really want to see fight bad, bro? I want to see Patrick Beverly fight so bad.
Nah.
Same. I really do because he talks so much.
I really hope that he just gets beat up. And I want like some no name. Like I want like matter of fact, give me an old JJ Barea who wasn't even in the thing anymore. Have him beat him up. Get a Ricky Rubio who was banished to Cleveland. Matter of fact, Mario Hezonja. Let's bring him back for a year and have him put paws on
Patrick Beverly though. Just to give a little insight on the street is Patrick Beverly is every local gym in Chicago. Patrick, you will see 1,000 Patrick Beverlys a day on every court.
Yes,
and Patrick Beverly just brings that attitude. The only difference is Patrick Beverly doesn't speak for the talent that comes out of Chicago. Derrick Rose does. Others do as well. I would say Anthony Davis, but
he just speaks for the mentality of people from Chicago.
Yeah, hold on, Mike. Hold on, Mike. You said you would bring up Anthony Davis, but what?
I would bring up AD, but he'd be rocking that Packers jersey, so he'd be pissing me off. It's weird, but I don't get it. But, it's definitely something where Patrick Beverly does have the vocalness of what the majority of Chicago is like and what it's like playing against guys in Chicago. His game just doesn't translate into that. But he definitely plays that type of guy. Now,
which
that can definitely fight.
Right, man. The thing is like he's not that good, but that's probably why he developed that talkative thing. Because this thing is like, look, if I'm average, I'd rather chirp in your ear so that way you remember me, like you remember my name. You know what I mean?
And he plays hard. He does all the dirty work, and I think that's what keeps him in the league is because he does all the things that nobody else wants to do.
You need a guy who will do that.
Yeah, for sure. You need a fall guy.
And on top of that, I don't know if y'all saw they played. I think it was the Pelicans. They played. Jonas Valanciunas was just trying to do his free throws, and Patrick. Yeah, he walks up to him and he bumps it and it stops, and it's just like I'm just waiting, and I'm like.
He just stood there too.
And then Jonas was like, "Bro, move!" And all of a sudden, Patrick was like, "Wait, what?" I'm like, "Bet you started it. Why are you gonna get mad at Jonas when you try to run up on the dude?"
That's that mentality of like, "Who are you talking to? I don't care if I'm in the wrong. You're not talking."
You're not talking to me. Yeah.
It has kept him in the league, and I will tell you this. Like that's something that even if he ends up not playing, like he falls out of the rotation, just that mentality alone will kind of find him a Udonis Haslem role where
yes. But there's always room for a Patrick Beverly in the league.
So I'm gonna tell you right now that again I'm not a Patrick Beverly fan at all. Like I play wherever you want, just don't come to Boston.
I don't blame that.
Because the thing is, it's like, honestly, I don't want him to go to a team like the Timberwolves. I think is solid for him. Don't go to a team where you're gonna fight somebody. Because if he goes to Philadelphia, he's gonna fight Joel.
Oh, what?
If he goes to Miami, he might fight Jimmy Butler. Mm-hmm. If he if he ends up
UD, because he might get on UD.
If he goes to LA, he's probably gonna fight. If he goes to Chicago, I mean, look, Zach LaVine, light skin, he look like he'll be somebody else. I don't know. Zach LaVine look like he's the type of dude that said, "I'll bring her home at 9, sir." And then next thing you know, it's 11 o'clock. He calls you. She's at my house and hangs up on you. Like that's what Zach LaVine look like. Like Zach LaVine look like he'll flip on a dime.
And don't sleep with DeMar DeRozan either.
Yeah, I was about to say DeMar DeRozan look like he in that Kawhi boat now. He quiet. Don't once he shows up like talking and whatnot, especially ever since he got the braids. When he went to San Antonio and got the braids, we saw a whole nother DeMar DeRozan. He was like, "Hey yo, I'm about that business."
Yeah, for sure.
Oh man, it's I wish I'll tap back because he's not good, but he getting paid. He getting paid more than me. So that my life goal one day is to be Patrick Beverley, where like
for sure.
I got that money. Oh man, it was fun with you guys. Follow us on Twitter at Prideful Takes. By the way, I got banned or not banned. I got blocked by somebody. I got blocked. Yeah, somebody said that Shohei Ohtani wasn't as good as he is. I was like, okay, so what are you watching? Like, what are you watching? Babe Ruth highlights, bro? Like, come on, grow up. And that alone got me blocked. Yeah, I got somebody's shots. I was like, all right, cool. That's another dub for me, so I'll take it. I ain't gonna argue with that at all. Catch us on Facebook at Prideful Takes. We go live on Facebook, and on top of that, we be putting all sorts of memes up there. If you don't got Facebook, you're in luck. Follow us on YouTube at Prideful Takes. Every live episode is there. Visit our website, www.pridefultakes.com. Not only is every episode of the podcast there, but we also have original articles. And I know I'm ugly as shit, so that's why we got Spotify. You can hear my voice without dealing with the face at Prideful Takes Podcast. Elena, Mike, any final comments y'all got?
Nah. Make sure y'all follow ASAP Network. Also, make sure you follow me on Anchor from the ground up, as well as on Spotify and Apple Music. And all of the stuff, everywhere you can listen to podcasts, follow from the ground up. Make sure y'all tune in. Also, Mike is coming on the show, so y'all be on the lookout for that. Pride, I need you on the show too, man.
Look,
we gotta get it popping.
I'm gonna tell you right now, if you want me on the show, just talk about LeBron. I'll go all day talking about LeBron. I'll go all day talking about LeBron.
You know what? We might do a LeBron James dedication episode featuring Pride. We might
100%. It's gonna be me just like loving everything you do. I will find listen. You give me enough time, I will find a good, perfect, I will find a good thing and that whole Dallas Mavericks thing. Just give me enough time. As always.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Just give me enough time and I promise I'll find it. As always, it's your boy Pride on behalf of Elena, Mike. See you guys in the next one. Be safe.
Where that was going. That was a great read. Oh, Lillard from the logo. That'll quiet the 2 on the season.
2nd and 1 for the Bills. They handle the rush. Allen looking. End zone.
To Shohei Ohtani. Center field. Let's watch it go.
Did several of those inside low kicks.